with the experience that we have now, it probably takes 2 seconds for us to walk through something and say, okay, I know that this is likely going to appraise for this. Renos on a full gut for 3 or 4 units is, you know, going to be between this price and this price. So it usually works fairly well just because we've done many of these.
I think this is an amazing property. The ceiling heights, just the condition of the building altogether. The guts is amazing. This is going to be an awesome project when it's done.
Okay, tell us about this property.
So it's a client's house. They've owned this house for quite some time, and they're converting it into a 3-unit house. So every unit here is going to be 2 floors. It's a big house.
And
beautiful
it's
house.
got some really nice height,
and
as you can tell.
There's going to be some really cool stuff in here. So they want to go they actually want a custom job. Even though this is going to be a rental property, they want really, really high rents. So we're doing custom kitchens, we're doing custom bathrooms. Like the reno budget on this one's like over $500,000. There are some issues that we explained to them after we demoed it. There's going to be tons of issues with structural that we have to bring the engineer back, go through it with them. We're bringing about six or 8 steel beams in here, big beams, 10 by 60s. I think there's a 12 by 48 coming in here. So in the world of structural, those are like 3,000 and 5,000 pound steel beams.
Can you point out where the structural problems are?
Sure. So there's more upstairs, but that does not pass code. So we have one LVL. It looks to be a 9-inch. That should probably be like a 5-ply. That should be going the whole span of the house. And it's carrying basically this beam right here is kind of carrying your 2nd floor and your 3rd floor. Right, so you got that staircase, you also have this staircase, and it's all kind of all the way through. So completely undersized. You could tell just from the different colors of the wood, that being old true 2x6s, this being kind of newer 2x4s. This was done recently, probably not on permits. It would have never passed any code whatsoever. So we can go upstairs, I'll show you guys the rest.
And I just want to point out the knob and tube. A lot of people wonder what it looks like. There it is right there. It looks like a knob and a tube and a string that goes around it.
How old is this house?
Can you guys see that?
That's a knob also.
It's a 100-year-old house, right?
Plus,
So you have
yes,
100 years of people doing renovations and kind of cutting into stuff. Like right there, that plumbing stack was cut right through a floor joist. That would not fly today, and now we got to fix it. So that's why we demo it, call for the demo permit, we open everything up, and then we can see exactly what the problems are. So we need to address those, which will reflect their budget on the back end. How much cool features we're going to put into this house will dictate on how much structural we're going to do here.
Costs are still high. I think for us, and then I'll talk for Wise, I guess, because they're buying in bulk, they're also getting good discounts versus, being an independent person going to, big box store directly. But I mean, they're still high. Like, they haven't necessarily come down, and they probably won't come down. I mean, inflation has, increased 7-8%. Is it as high as it was at one point? No, but I don't see it coming all the way back down either.
So here's something else that's pretty cool. Let's see if Lou remembers this. So we did a house not too long ago that had a door very similar to this. And even though this door looks like it's kind of old and junky, Lou, do you remember what the other client spent to have this door restored?
It's almost $10,000.
Just to have this door restored. So when the client wanted to throw this door away because they thought it was junk, I said, don't throw it away, encase it, close it, see if you can sell it. So I think they actually sold this door for $4,000 or $5,000 in its state that it is now, which probably needs another several thousands of dollars to restore it.
Yeah, what do I think about buying a house that's been gutted? Those are great opportunities, absolutely great opportunities, because there's usually a backstory behind it. There's usually, at least there's one of the deals we looked at, there was a partnership issue and they were splitting up, so they didn't have the equity or the funds to continue the project. In those cases, you can be very aggressive. You can be very aggressive with the offer, And if you have the right eyes and the right team, especially a contractor that can walk with you during that process, you can put your numbers together very quickly because you see the bones of the property at this point versus having to pay the demo and you don't know what you're going to see behind those walls. So I think it's a great opportunity to save some money too.
Okay, so I have a question though. Okay, so for Dalia.
I am just with one shoes right now because I got a foot cramp.
Okay, we won't film your shoes.
Okay.
But well, my question to you, aside from your
I was
shoes,
gonna say you're really brave. You're gonna go barefoot in here.
it's okay. We'll put this is.
Safety socks?
We'll
Kevlar.
put this on camera. Why not? But if somebody is going to renovate and they want to borrow construction financing or renovation funds, like what are the actual options?
There are lenders that would provide construction financing, and they would look at the ask complete value along with the construction budget, and they can go up to anywhere from 75 to 80% of the construction and acquisition value. So typically in residential, that's private money. In commercial, there are more options.
Okay. All right. Awesome.
So given the changing rate environment, should investors go with a fixed rate mortgage or a variable rate mortgage?
So here's something that is interesting that's happening right now. Variable rates are actually above fixed rates, where historically they've been lower than fixed rates. This shouldn't change the decision around locking in. So my suggestion is the following. To recognize that there will be an extra increase to the Bank of Canada rate coming October and likely again in December, for those who are staying variable, they will see an impact on their payment. But if history repeats itself, Alex, what tends to happen is that the bank sits on the rates for about 18 months before they start to remove their feet off the gas, the brakes, to re-stimulate economy. So if someone can stay in a variable rate, they will benefit fast forward 18 months from reductions. If they cannot sleep at night, and because they're getting anxious right now, I would suggest they lock into a 1 or a 2-year fixed and not a 5 years fixed, because they would be locking in at the height of the rate cycle.
Ryan, this is obviously a big project for somebody and many things can go wrong. Let's just say, for example, not necessarily wise, but what are some of the things that could go wrong if you hire the wrong contractor potentially and then it goes sideways? Like what are some things that you've seen or heard along the way of projects like these?
Well, I mean, I think probably the biggest thing is like make sure you have some stuff in writing. I mean, if you need to come see a lawyer, having stuff having stuff not in writing is always more challenging for us. The more you have in writing, like whether it's a signed like work agreement or plan agreement or both, contract on like who's like managing the project versus who are the trades, that kind of thing. All of that stuff's gonna be helpful, like for us if you need us to do something legally. I mean, most of the time, it's a homeowner or the person who owns the property saying, I'm not happy with the work that was done, or this all didn't get completed, or what have you. And so it's kind of unless there's stuff in writing, it's a bit of a he said, she said, right? People start pulling out emails and texts and all that kind of stuff. That can be helpful, but really having something in writing is really your best bet. Lee and I actually were saying on the way in here, like, so with this kind of project, do you kind of give them an option A, so if you don't have surprises when you rip it all apart,
right?
This is going to be your budget and your return on investment. And option B, we rip it all apart and you're like, oh crap, you got like this, and this, that's going to be 50 to 100K.
I just think the speed at which real estate moves. It moves very quickly. It's not something you can sit on and wait and get to eventually, no matter what task or project that it is. It's a very time-sensitive market and things change drastically. So I think as an investor, it's always important to self-reflect and look at what strategies you're using, what market you're going to be in, what city, and what your long-term goal is, and always know that that has to be a shifting thing, and you always should reevaluate and go over your portfolio and your projection and your goals to make sure you're moving with the times.
So somebody like Lee and Wise Construction, that's what they do. They plan out like your best and maybe your worst case scenario, and then hopefully you're either in the middle or closer to your best case, right? But it's basically having it all in writing. The more you have in writing, it's going to be better for you. The less, well, it's he said, she said, right? The biggest thing you have to be kind of worried about as the homeowner are liens.
Right.
So if you try to, get aggressive, or you don't pay your trades properly, or they can't pay the sub trades because they're not getting paid as the general contractor, well, now you can get liens registered against your house, and then those liens are now going to affect, your value in the house, and they might affect the ability to get future financing, construction draws, etc. Because what will end up happening if it is a true construction draw, each time you do a draw, you have to hold back, it used to be 10%, it might be 15% now in our Construction Lien Act. You have to hold it back for 90 days. If you don't hold it back, then now you've breached a statute, which is number one. But number two, if there are trades that need to be paid by the holdback, they're going to be looking for that, right?
Hi Ryan.
Hello.
Today I wanted to ask you about if I'm wanting to purchase the house next door to the one I already own. Tell us a little bit more about that and what that can mean.
Sure. So it's even actually a little broader than just right next door, like municipal neighbors. It's basically abutting properties under a title search. So it's possible that you could be talking about, yes, the house right to the left or the right, but it could be behind, it could be actually diagonally. It's essentially whatever abuts the property that's subject to, and if it's on what's called a part lot. So without getting into too many complexities, you have title searches that show whole lots and part lots. Okay. If you have part lots, then you have a piece of legislation called the Planning Act that comes into play, and that Planning Act is required to be complied with, which means you cannot essentially develop or buy properties without them being in different ownership. So they have to be different people or different corporations, unless you have an exemption, and the most common exemption is a consent under the Planning Act for severance.
Okay.
So short answer here, if you were buying a property that you already potentially owned an abutting property, you'd want to make sure that it's not in the same ownership. So it couldn't be bought, you couldn't have property A owned by Mr. Smith and then have Mr. Smith buy property B, because now they've merged, if they're part lots.
Okay, but if they're full lots, then I can do that?
Then you have different rules that apply, and you don't have this concern.
All right, great. So to find out more about merging and property lines and whether you can purchase the house next to yours, partial lot, full lot, you can contact Ryan at carsonlaw.ca.
A question, Ryan. So, in the construction world, correct me if I'm wrong, because I do get mixed information on this. So, let's say you're a homeowner, and let's say you hire your contractor, you pay your contractor hires his electrician. You're trusting your contractor to pay the electrician. If that contractor doesn't pay the electrician, that electrician has a right to come and put a lien on the property.
I believe that's correct. I'm not a construction lien expert, so I can't say for sure if they draw a line and a distinction to stop it at the GC, like the general contractor. Yep. But I believe to protect the sub-trades, they can lien the property that the GC is managing, right, if they're not paid, right? And then my beef is obviously of the homeowner would be with you, my GC, to be like, hey, I gave you the money, where's it going? Why didn't you pay the electrician?
So you have to essentially go after the GC and then so forth and so
Yeah, it's kind of a down the ladder, up the ladder, right? The sub-trades are all going to be going to the GC. The GC is connected to the homeowner or the property owner. Property owner is going to go to the GC and say, like, why didn't we pay these guys?
Right.
You know.
But as a homeowner, though, you should do your homework.
Yeah.
Right. 100%.
You should go check out other project references, And like Lee and I always say is, like, yeah, you want us to quote your job, but every client's go get 5 quotes. You're gonna get, out of those 5 quotes, you're gonna get one that's gonna be out to lunch and super expensive. You're gonna get one that's gonna be super cheap. You don't wanna hire either one of those guys. And then you're gonna have the 3 that are all right around the same price point. Pick one of those.
Yeah.
Right?
The other thing, ask contractors or sub-trades or trades, ask them for their liability certificates. Ask for copies of their WSIB to make sure they're in good standings, because those to me would all be red flags if I'm going to drop. Again, this is a $500,000 renovation, right? You would think the homeowners would want to do, their homework, make sure they're hiring, the right GC to come. Not saying we're the right GC, but just, in reference in general, everybody should do their due diligence, their homework, I think.
If they're not doing their paperwork on the back end with their WSIB and liability insurance, that should be a red flag as a homeowner. If they're not doing that right, what are they not doing right on the other end?
Yeah, you're 100% right. Yeah, for sure. I mean, get your multiple quotes for sure. Get them in writing. Get references. See other projects, whether it's like in person or the video and pictures that people have. But get references from other past clients and everything like that. But get multiple quotes for sure in writing, and then absolutely want to see their insurance too, WSIB. So those are all things that are going to help protect homeowners, property owners, make the right decision, get the right GC, get the right trades going. And then again, if you have stuff in writing, hopefully speed bumps along the way are small as opposed to growing.
Our favorite in the city of Hamilton is you need to be licensed as a contractor to work in the city of Hamilton, which a lot of people don't know that.
I mean, it's all about education, I think, ultimately, at the end of the day, because somebody new starting a project for the first time, their very first project, guaranteed, 99% of them are not asking those questions. They're not doing their verifications. Maybe they're getting a couple quotes, but even just the insurance coverage, the proof of that, that's all very important stuff. Do it now, hire the right team so that in the future you're not hearing about the horror stories and you're not one of those horror stories.